Welcome everybody to fleetster Reloaded 2021. A special year. We were fighting hard for this event to happen last year. I was in this room with two designers. We had an excellent night, I must say, but it was somewhat depressing, not because of the two people, but because of the circumstances. And we really wanted an event this year, and we gave our best with local testing and everything around it, but I think we all have this feeling that COVID is getting closer and closer, so I would doubt that we could have the event next week, and I'm very happy that we still somehow managed to do it, so thank you all very much for coming. I hope, and I'm relatively sure it will be rewarded, because since we knew that there wouldn't be hundreds of people here tonight, we spent more time on the preparation of the presentation. So as Steve Jobs kept saying, it's the best iPhone we ever had. This is definitely the best presentation we ever had. So, but you tell me later. Let's get started to get you up to speed, and let's do a little bit of a questionnaire to see where the pulse is tonight and what you feel, and get some expert knowledge. And we have a little prize. There's always a challenge when at least I'm the person who can set the game. So there is also something to win, so be awake. First question, a little warm-up question. You should now all on your mobile phones see that question, be able to give me the answer. So how far did you travel to get here? Maybe not from the hotel, but actually from where you live normally. And I actually took out the results from 2 years ago to see how that might have changed. And it's, wow. Okay, it changed in a different way, actually. So this was actually 2 years ago. So there was many people nearby. And the more happy I am to see that people had really made quite a bit of an effort to get here tonight. So thank you very much for the travel. And you will be rewarded. So my question, and that's the one where you can score, will be coming soon, which is going to be about global warming and temperatures. And you get more points the faster you answer. But if you answer with a wrong answer, then you get no points. Yeah. So the question is now. Now you can choose your players. You still have time. Put in your names. Very well. Okay. So here comes the question. Exactly. So fast answers. What is the temperature difference between an ice age and a warm age on average? So how many degrees? Is it 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees, or 20 degrees? What do you think? Everyone has answered. Okay. Oh, not bad. So I find this striking because, and I'll get to it at the end of the presentation, I think as much as we see COVID coming closer very fast, I think we also see global warming coming closer, also unfortunately relatively fast. And this was one of the moments that struck me for some weeks ago when on the radio I was listening and I wasn't aware of this. So I didn't have a feeling that 1.5 degrees is really that much already. I mean, people keep saying that, but if you think of warm age and ice age being 5 degrees, then you know what it could mean if we have 2.5 degrees more than what we have today. So I just wanted to share that impression with you. Let's move on. What is your background? So who do we have here today? I mean, maybe the Fleetster team, since we're quite outnumbering. Well, let's see what you guys choose. Family and friends, I suppose, right? Oh no, that's another question. So mobility and services. Others, hardware and technology. Yes, Geotab, indeed. Family and friends. That one I like. Mobility services. Okay, that's the people you meet here. Obviously, it makes a bit more sense if there are 100 people in this room, but still. Okay, no, Fleetster user exists. I thought it's somebody of the team saying Fleetster user. Which is the topic you're most interested in tonight? So, what shall I elaborate on new Fleetster features? Excellent answer. Food and drinks. Yep. Okay, that makes it easy. Networking. Yep. Sorry for you guys. I mean, we're very happy to connect you, but you can all talk to me, right? I think there's some interesting people here tonight. Okay, one more networking. Very well. Let's move on. What will be the new normal for business trips compared to the pre-COVID times? Don't get confused with the plus and minus. On the very left, we have much less, quite a bit less, the same, quite a bit more, and a lot more. So, I mean, it's, a bit subjective, I have to say. So I have a relatively strong opinion about this, but we wanted to see what you think. All right. Yeah. Okay. That was what I was expecting. Yeah. Certainly not more. Yeah. I would. Yeah, of course. Thank you, my dear team. What impact will that have on the procurement of business cars in the next 3 years? So how many cars will be purchased? That's really the question. Significantly less, same or more? Yeah, 50-50. Okay, less. Certainly not more. Okay, team, come on. Okay, interesting. All right. We're also on the same page on that one. So, almost there. Which impacts will be greater on the business car market? You can also say mobility market, business mobility market. So, will COVID have a stronger impact or global warming? Maybe let's say looking at the next 3 to 5 years, not the next 50. So, foreseeable future. Oh, okay, that's an interesting one. All right. Okay, almost 50-50, a little bit towards COVID. Well, then let's find out who won. Ingrid! And here's the t-shirt. Ingrid actually did the presentation with me and practiced this. Well done, you're still awake, Ingrid. Good job. You can give it to some. You can later check who was second if you don't want it. All right. How nice of you to actually... Okay, let's get focused. Let's get serious. We have a lot of content, and as always, I'm trying to get the story of fleetster in a different context and explain it as well as I can, but always give it a little spin. And now we are in the 11th year, and it's actually not that far away that we will be in the 12th. And the whole journey started with a Tesla Roadster, which certainly could have been worse. And it was actually a great time because my idea was that I wanted to push the topic of immobility that I learned a lot about in my previous careers. And I felt that there was no clear business case, nothing I was good at that I could really help the topic with my background. And so I somehow stumbled into the 2 employees of Tesla that Tesla had in Europe back then, and they were apparently located in Munich. And we discussed how the market was evolving, and they said, we're getting so many requests for business events with our Teslas, but we normally don't have many because we sell them right away. We're not supposed to do events. So if you, Tim, buy a Tesla from us, we forward all the events to you. And I thought that's actually not a bad idea because I would then meet all these companies that want to book a Tesla event. And those are normally not the worst people. I mean, they were actually quite interesting ones. So, for example, I think I shouldn't name some of them, but some are now currently the board members of German car manufacturers that had their first Tesla Roadster ride with me. And I don't think they will recall me, but they will recall the first ride because I tend to really sell them the message. And so that was an interesting time with lots of interesting people. So the best idea in that time, because for me it was clear that the Tesla rental business was in the end a dead horse, a very fast dead horse, but it was clear that I didn't want to do a Tesla rental business for the next foreseeable future. So I was permanently looking at what could we do next. And I had lots and lots of ideas, but I think the best one really was to say we need a piece of software that helps companies to integrate electric cars. And I thought what was needed the most is that you have a booking system that helps to make these cars that back then could travel something like 80 kilometers, in winter sometimes even less. So that was the reality in 2010, 11, 12. And if you had just a little tool that would manage the demand and make people book and then tell them, yes, this booking will be possible, that booking won't be possible, so you better take the combustion engine car, that would be it. The problem was we were very early with developing cloud software back then, and so we had to redo our software actually 2 times. And the second time, we then already had quite a number of customers on that platform, but we realized we need something bigger because the demands we were getting, the requests our customers were making were so different than what we wanted, because we said we want a tool that can do electric car sharing in fleets. That was it. And then they wanted so many things outside of it, trunk delivery, parking, all of those things. And we realized if we try to bend the system in all of these directions, it will get slower and slower, and at one point it will implode because it wasn't designed for it. So we said, okay, somehow the market isn't really there. So why not use the time and do it again? Which was a very risky move, and later I can tell you a little bit about that time because it was really a roller coaster. when we realized that big car manufacturers came up with a similar product in exactly those years where we did our third version. But nevertheless, we did it, and then we had the platform. And this is actually where fleetster Reloaded comes from, because we said we must define a date where it's ready, because it's never ready. So on one date, we must say, now version 3 is ready, we stop version 2, now 3. And that was fleetster Reloaded. That was this event 7 years ago, right here. Packed, by the way. People were queuing until the very end. So this is how times change, due to unforeseeable circumstances. So here comes the spin. Thinking about this time, I actually had watched a very interesting TED Talk. There was an investor who has invested into many companies, and he was curious to understand what made the companies he invested in and also the peer group of them successful or not. And he defined 5 different criteria to get them in order: business model, idea, team and execution, timing, and funding. And he rated all those 200 startups that he was either invested in or knew very well and said, how do they score? What do I think is their score? And then he looked at this entire map of the 200 and thought, what was the main driver for all of these startups? And okay, this would have been now a nice question for our questionnaire. I cannot ask you really, but maybe you might have one of those in mind. And now I'll tell you what he found out is that the single most important thing out of all is timing. Timing to market. Being there when the market is there as well, maybe a little bit earlier so that when the market really kicks in, you can ride the wave. Right. So looking at that, it didn't quite pan out that way for us, because software for electric cars in 2014, there were exactly 12,156 electric vehicles in Germany back then, which for people who know how many cars we have, which was back then 45 million, is nothing, is literally nothing. So the smallest batches of a car manufacturer production line is 50,000. That's really the smallest they can even think of. And the entire market in Germany was 12,000 cars. So we estimated that if all of these cars would buy our software, where there was no reason for them to buy it because most of these cars were privately held, they didn't need any sharing, the total market size would have been 2.2 million euros a year. Right, so we had to, timing was wrong, off. Yeah, unlike, in contrast to all the predictions that were there in the market, because everybody thought e-mobility is the next big thing and it happens now. Well, it didn't. And so we had effectively 3 options. 1, get more money and try to convince customers through money or whatever to buy the product. 2, close shop. 3, come up with a better plan. And that's what we did. So we said, okay, e-car sharing, fine, we have it. What else should we do? So that's when we built the platform. And that's when we then said, hey, why not reaching out to maybe bigger corporations who might have a bigger funding in the background and would need a platform like ours to get the requests that they are getting from the market implemented, and we could then be their software partner. And actually that worked better than expected, because in 2015 already we had a huge project. We actually had some small projects before and also after, but I'm just talking about the big ones now. So Van2Share from Daimler is a product where Daimler said, hey, we want to have our logistics fleets or our customers enable them to manage demands and to maybe even exchange drivers and to get the cars more flexible. So we need a platform that we can do this on. And you fleetster guys are quite close to it. We would need a couple of features, but maybe you could develop them together with us, and then we build a product together. And that's what we did. And we did the same thing for Smart. So Smart today, you get an app and it's called the Ready to Services edition. And you can share your vehicle with your friends, and you can, back then you could actually do trunk deliveries, you could get Amazon packages in your car. And that's what we built for them in the beginning, and then later they took it over. So there were more projects, but I just thought those are the big ones that you might have heard of. And then, quite a bit later, COVID struck. And well, that changed the market quite a bit. And just for you to get into our perspective, what's worse than trying to sell electric car or a service for electric car 6 years too early? Well, it is, that was too fast. It is when you're trying to sell software for business trips during the COVID pandemic. Right? So it wasn't exactly the right timing neither. But we got quite resilient and good at finding our path. So we sat down, sort of the 10th anniversary of fleetster, I've effectively celebrated alone in the office, calling Radu, see how he was doing. And then we said, there's always an opportunity. If something that severe changes, I think the one thing you shouldn't do is just try to continue. So there's always something big into this. And we just need to find out for ourselves right now what that will be when COVID is over. None of us thought that would take that long. So don't get us wrong. We didn't see this coming. But we were sitting down and say, what does COVID change? And one thing that it changed was very apparent quite fast. Our big projects started to go into a sleeping-ish mode, which meant a huge chunk of revenue that we were getting before was effectively not there anymore. So there were a lot of options that we could have executed again. Yeah, get money to try, close shop, or come up with something better. And what we did is to say, what are we really good at? What is the one thing we can do best? And the one thing we can do best is build software. We are the pure tech company. So we're not a sales organization or a marketing organization. We are a software company. So we said, okay, the one thing we also realized over the past years when the markets matured is that the fleet managers actually told us, we don't want 3 times the best solution for different problems. We want one solution. And that's the first thing we want. We want one solution that can do everything for us, and that's what we're looking for. And we were clearly the guys who said, hey, we are the best for car sharing. If you want car sharing, take us. And they said, yeah, we want car sharing for our pool cars, but we also want driver license control, fleet management, and so on. If you can do that, then it's really not that interesting for us. And then we said, okay, enough. Now we do it. Because we had the time, right? I mean, everybody was in firefighting mode with bigger problems than managing the pool cars that were just sitting there anyway. So there was not much going on in marketing and sales. So we said, okay, well, let's go back to the roots and let's build product after product after product. And we built 7 of them this year. We will go through them now, but that's effectively our strategy to say, okay, well, we use the time. Yeah, if we have the time, then let's use it. And before we go deep into something, we always look at the data. And there's always some data points that I share every year, and here's the data of this year. So things that changed, and surely they changed quite a bit, so if you look to the very right, that's the last year. And effectively, there are not many more bookings than before, but there's quite a shift in the technology that was used to conduct those bookings. And I think the most striking one is that actually the car sharing technology was the one that dropped the most, and the key cabinets was the most increasing one. Well, there's a reason for that. It's not that companies weren't as interested, but installation on premise was a problem in COVID times. To say we sent you somebody to install at your place and there will be people around wasn't very attractive. And then, of course, our big partners actually took quite a share out of our pre-4 fleet of car sharing kits. So that's the reality. Next one, bookings per year. So actually we have a little projection, so we only looked at the data until mid of November and then extrapolated the rest. But booking wise, we were growing quite fast until COVID-19 was still a good year, and then 2021 okay. So we don't have a drop, we didn't lose customers, or there were less activity, but was just no big increase because people didn't need to travel as much. Same for electric cars, right? So it was still steady, but the steep growth that we had before just didn't materialize after. Still, we grew our customer base worldwide. I mean, we actually have now more countries than before, and actually in some very remote areas. So I think we have another key cabinet in New Zealand, and there's more activity in Australia and Chile. And so all of these people are still quite active, but in a, well, let's say they're not on fire, right? Because, for COVID reasons. So we thought, okay, if we make such big decisions, we go even deeper in the data. And so this year, we actually started our fleetster mobility index, because we also thought if we spend that much time on gathering all of that data, why not use it permanently? And we will now publish the data from the mobility index. We're starting small, now very much focused on Germany, and then we will slowly increase it whenever we feel that a market has enough data for us to show it to you. So first of all, we were looking at corporate car sharing. Corporate car sharing, pool cars, business cars, that was what we started with. And we were looking at different aspects that I now go through. So first, monthly active users. So you're looking at 2018 to 22, and after 20, of course, there's the big dip. That's COVID number 1. This is a German chart, so most of these customers are in Germany. And this is the first lockdown, and it goes up a little bit and then goes back down in the second lockdown, but not as much. So people got quite a bit of resilience in those phases. And then business was increasing, and that's the interesting part, I think. It's still now maintained at a high level, even though COVID is coming back heavily. It seems that the users are now persistently quite active. Then we have the utilization, which is actually the single point of truth, so to speak. And what we can see is that what's even more of a killer for utilization that is not COVID, but is actually Christmas. Christmas is the biggest mobility killer, which is these ones. But then we actually saw that, well, the business mobility dropped quite a bit, but now it is back and it's actually climbing. So it looks as if next year could be a very interesting year, because also mobility is changing. But that's maybe a bit too much for now. We'll get into that later. Bookings per car, it's just important to see that there are no anomalies. So it just goes with a similar flow like the utilization. Same is true for the distance. And there something is quite logical. Before COVID, people were still doing the Hamburg, Munich, Berlin trips for business purposes. But after that, most of the business trips were probably within the company in different locations, maybe the very, very essential business trips. But in principle, people weren't just traveling as far away as before. And that's now slowly coming back as well. Okay, public car sharing. So this is now the operators that are present here today as well. We're putting car sharing cars in cities, in communities, and charge money for them. And there it's actually quite interesting that the active users count is as great as never before. That somewhat is an anomaly because they have been growing. So they have actually increased their fleets. There's obviously more cars and then there's more users, but also utilization is actually now back to where it was. So even through the increase of having more cars in the field, it didn't shorten or limit the demand. So there's now still a very high level of demand, and we're almost back to where we were before. And let's see what's going to happen next year when hopefully where we're done with most of the COVID impacts, because it seems to be on a quite interesting trend. So the bookings per car also, no anomalies, they're going up, they're steady, and the distance travel, there's always what I found interesting that in summer it's peaking, so it seems people are using the car sharing cars to go to the lakes and the mountains and do a bit more travel. So it seems that in public car sharing in summer there is more traveling being done with car sharing cars. Lastly, our topic, immobility. So we're always looking what can we learn about immobility. And there's not this hockey stick kind of curve. That would also be a bit too much to expect. But what I think is particularly interesting is that out of the fleetster user base, we started already 2008 with 10%. 10% in 2008. That was before the ID3. That was before all the mass-produced cars that we can buy today. Already then all the fleetster customers were having 10% electric cars. So that means we're very happy to have such an innovative user group. And that's the evidence for it. So that was data. Let's look at what we did with that data and what we built based on the conclusions that we could draw out of this. So 7 products. Let's go through them, not in order, but logically. Last year, we were focusing on 2 aspects. We were looking at corporate mobility, meaning fleets, companies, and the operators, being public car sharing, partially leasing companies, and then also rental companies and the like. Those were our 2 focus areas. Today, we'll look mainly at corporate car sharing, just a little bit at the operators, because that we already did in our workshop earlier. So first off, that was too fast. No, that was still too fast. Oh, whatever. Fleet management. Fleet management, we built the Excel killer. Because we thought for quite some time, what is the biggest competitor of us out there in the market when we build a fleet management software? And actually we realized it's Excel. Excel is by far the biggest competitor because everybody starts to say, it cannot be that difficult. Let's have a couple of VLOOKUPs, SVRs, and so on. Cannot be that hard. And then we get these Excel files later and we say wow, guys, you must have had a lot of fun with this because at one point they all implode. And that's what we said must be the first thing. So we need to help companies to say, give us your Excel file and we'll take care of it, and then you get a proper system to be done with that. And that is what we built our first piece of software for. And here are just a couple of examples of what we did. We can later go a bit deeper. We have everything here to show, but that would take too long. So it's, first of all, of course, the digital vehicle file. So it's the Excel spreadsheet that's circled around the one car, everything that comes with it. But obviously, it gets also interesting when you see how is behavior and time for certain cars connected to contracts, like a leasing contract behaving, because that's the hardest thing to track, because you need data from the vehicle. And we're actually quite good with data, right? If you do car sharing, you need to do quite a bit with the vehicle. So that's something we could draw into our fleet management platform. Task management. Here the idea is to get the user into the game. That's the other part that takes a lot of time. Communication. To say, when are you changing your tires? Have you changed your tires? Have you gone your new TÜV check? And so on and so forth. That's what drives fleet managers crazy. And they normally don't have a good system to monitor and then also to document what they have done so far and what they still need to do. But it gets significantly easier once you get the driver into the game, and that's why we use our app, which we already had, to now send these messages and make them help the fleet manager. So task management is an essential part as well. So there's a lot more, but that would have been too much for tonight, so let's move to the next subject, which is corporate car sharing. It's our core product. It was there before. It's not new, but it got much more complete. And it's easier to show you if I show you quickly what we have as a whole and not just the little snippets that changed. So let's quickly take the ride. You can do corporate car sharing with us in 3 different ways. 1, software only, super simple. So can be set up in 20 minutes, it's really fast, and you would only really need to get in contact with us. We give you a demo system, and I'd say in 15-20 minutes we have you up and running. So there's the web booking process. There's obviously also a mobile app booking process, and it is possible for a user to book a vehicle, and that's already the thing that changes, because in many companies you call somebody, and that somebody has to manage all of the bookings. Or you have an Outlook calendar where people delete and change as they please, and if they have a damage, then they just delete their booking, that nobody knows that they were driving the car. And so with us, you book, you get your information, you see which cars are free, you see the price, you're logged in, you have a cost center maybe, you have a reason for a trip, everything that your company requires you to have. And that's already it. So that's much more solid. And then you can actually add the key management component, which we also have. And then you can have a person, like the receptionist, handing out the keys and say, okay, I just gave him the key. And by the way, I checked his driving license, which is very important, especially in Germany. So that can all be done with software, no hardware necessary. Possible to connect with a data dongle, but not necessary. Then you have the booking overview. You start to get all the data that Outlook can never give you. All right, if you want to go a bit fancier, then you could take a key cabinet, because the main purpose of the key cabinet is that what the receptionist would do, handing out the keys, the cabinet does with no problem 24/7, anytime, anywhere, it just does it. And what we did last year is we integrated a data dongle, and now we're getting data from the car and then actually giving it to the key cabinet. Of course, it's all in the cloud, but to the key cabinet. And so the users don't need to say what the mileage of the car is or the gasoline level when they return it, because we already know. We get the data from the car. So at the end, they now just need to say the car is clean, the car is not so clean. They give stars, put back the key, done deal. 24/7, no problem. So that process got quite a bit more seamless than it already was. And then, of course, the car sharing kit, which we already had for some time. And we now have some added services that we built, and I just wanted to do a little catch-up of how it works. It works like this. I already had my booking, and I go to the car. Well, then I say I have a driving license. We'll get to driver licenses soon. And now it tells me, are there any new damages? I can look at the previous damages that other people have reported, so I can check the pictures and see what they said about it, so I don't have to report a damage again. They are not damages twice. So now I'm just found a new damage, which actually is not really a damage, but I just wanted to showcase how it works. So taking a picture, it's now uploaded. The admin is informed right now about what just happened and can take actions and measures. And I'm now further looking, and once I think there's no more damage that I should report, I say, okay, I want to start my booking. which I do. I open the car. That works through Bluetooth or via the internet, so I can do it underground, in the garage, in a poor internet connectivity area. And then I pick up the key only for cars that need a key to start, because there's also the push to go or keyless go, you say in Germany, vehicles. So I'm now driving, and then I come back, and then pretty much the whole process reverts. Next product. What is the next product today? I think it's the driver log. Yeah, so Fahrtenbuch. The one thing that drives everybody crazy, where you permanently have to write something in your little booklet that you keep forgetting, and then you need to do it when the tax authorities call for the past 3 years, and then half of it is wrong, and then you have to pay a lot of money. So with the right data that you have on the car, it can actually be quite easy. And what we tried to build is a system that, one, reduces every possible click, ideally down to one, because in the ideal scenario, you say, here's where I work, here is where I live, and you can put lots of other places. Yeah, here's my sales client 1, client 2, and then when you go from one place to the other, the app tells you, hey, did you just go home? And you say, yes, done. Because we know everything, right? We know the addresses, we know when you travel, we know the times, we know the mileage, we know everything. So there's not much you need to do. And then that's you can find in the market. We focused, of course, at fleets. So we're not interested in the private person who wants to get their new Porsche as cheap as possible. We're interested in the ones that have 100 cars where people never write in these books, and then they have huge problems. So we built the features on top to make that process more seamless. We will show you later if you're interested, but that's really the focus of this product. Okay, next product. Driver license check. Yeah, absolute pain and very inconvenient, especially in COVID times. Yeah, one of the big problems of fleet managers was that they were supposed to check driving licenses, but they couldn't see the people. So they realized maybe we need something digital. Okay, we said, yeah, why not? You know, actually it's something that our public car sharers need, so let's build it. And we did. What it does in the end is it asks you to take pictures of your driving license and then submit them to your administrator. And of course, they are deleted after they were checked, but they are stored for a brief second or as long as it takes for the admin to check them. And you take a picture of the front, picture of the back, and a picture whilst holding the driving license so that we know you're not taking pictures of something that you already copied over. And after that, you upload it, it goes to your administrator, and then it tells you that you need to wait until it's approved. What's very important is it's deeply integrated into our entire ecosystem, which means you will not be able to start a pool car booking without having your driving license checked, if that's what your admin wants. So you suddenly get back into control where you don't have to say, but you're not supposed to do that, but you say like, if you're not coming to get your check, you won't drive, period. And that's sort of the depth in which we integrate it and which we do integrate all of our products. And that's the case here for the driver log. For the driver license control. Next one, geo and tracking. Actually not officially released, but it's already there for some time. We have enhanced it. Will be the last product that we are actually showcasing this year. And in the end, geo and tracking is just something where we said we need it for reasons of completeness. So there's a lot of tracking products out there. I don't think we're going to be the best, but if somebody says, I want one platform only and I need tracking, then we don't want to be in a position to say, sorry, yeah, you have to look for something else. So that's why we have it. I think it works well. We also have some nice features like heat maps and so that is not so widely spread in the market. But yeah, it's an essential product, and now we have it too. Well, for me, coming from Münster, which is a city that has more cycles than people, than inhabitants, I really like the fact that we now have also a bike sharing solution. And we made this one quite simple. We didn't put the fancy, super expensive Bluetooth locks. We actually made it as cheap as possible so that companies could have a lot of bikes integrated simply. And we do it with number locks, but the manufacturers of these Bluetooth locks keep coming. So I think it's a matter of time before we integrate one of them. We have various prototypes already integrated. We just think right now it's too expensive for what it does if you do it inside of a business. If you do it outside in the cities, no question to be asked, but they already have the software, and the businesses, I don't think, want to spend that money. So let's see what the market brings us in the next year. Okay, last one, Public car sharing, if you're interested, approach us. The people at the workshop already saw that we already did quite a number of new products, and there will be quite a number of new ideas that we have already bounced with our partners. So there's a lot going to come in the next year. Public car sharing, is apparently possible that it's going to explode and get 60 times bigger, according to the research that we found. If that's true or not, I think it's a growth market, and since we can bring everything to the table that's necessary, we thought we'd do. Okay, all of our products you can have as a white label, so that's our partner strategy that actually got us through the first period where we were too early for the market, and so all the Daimlers and all the Smarts and the other companies wanted our software in their own design, and we had to take it to the extreme so that you would see literally nowhere that fleetster is underneath, and we standardized it, and so everybody can have it. So that was looking back. What did we do this year? Quick recap. In the past 8 years, we built 2 products: corporate car sharing, public car sharing. In the last 12 months, a little bit more, we built 7 products. The reason is, well, most of our time and resources we sold to big partners to build something together with them, which came to a drastic halt during the COVID time. So maybe you can imagine where we would be if for the past 5 years or 6 or 7 we would have developed only the stuff that we wanted to. But okay, it's never too late, and I think the message is we used our time wisely, I think. And we will continue to. So whilst doing that, we actually, reached out further to the players in these areas of the market, and we learned some quite interesting things. And one of the things is that there are a certain number of companies managing fleets, and I'll get to that. And in order for them to help the fleets really, we need some features like invoice recognition. Yeah, you put the invoice, you upload it, our system understands what's on that invoice, puts it in the right areas, and then you can manage the cost. Gasoline cars is an obvious one, but it takes quite a bit of time to get all the providers integrated. So that's something we'll do next year. It's actually, the importer is already there, we just don't have the dedicated integrations yet. The total cost of ownership, the one thing that everybody's interested in: how much does my fleet cost, how much does each car cost, which one is too expensive, why is that the case? Those are the things that we will actually dig up and then visualize for our customers. Reporting and analysis, an obvious one. So after you have killed the Excel, you want to know more, and we'll give it to you. And we have also understood that in so many countries and geographies, there are so different types of check procedures that are either government-driven or best practice-driven or whatever, that we have changed the idea of saying we will have a driving license check, but actually say we have an entire check area that we can internationalize. And the US guys get their professional driving check, and we get our driver license check and UVV, and everybody gets their checks. And so we will build lots of checks next year. Some of them we already have. External services, that's something I find really interesting, because now we are getting another type of player into the ecosystem. So far we had the user, we had the fleet manager. The user can also be the driver, so somebody who has his own car or is booking pool cars or public car sharing cars. Then the fleet manager manages everything, and then we had the big step towards the leasing companies or sometimes the operators, but there was nobody in between. And now we will establish this layer, which already exists in the market, who are the people who help out the fleet manager taking care of everything. And there's a lot to take care of. There's legal topics, there is financial topics, there's procurement topics, contract topics. There's so many different types of contracts, and then things break and there are damages and people get injured. And so there's lots and lots of skills that a fleet manager needs to have. And often they're looking out for somebody to help them. But the problem is, they normally look at 2 systems. So the fleet manager often looks at Excel, and the leasing companies normally don't say what they're looking at, but I've seen some of those programs and they don't really look that good, to be honest. So parts of them I'm sure work fine, but there's no connection. But effectively they want to do the same things, but just with different managing rights. And managing rights and different roles is easy for us to build. So what we will do is we will allow these fleet management organizations to provide these services to fleet managers. So for example, to say, if you have a damage, give us a call. We'll take care of it. We'll take the car, we bring it to the garage, we make sure it's not too expensive, we get you the invoice, everything's going to be done. We will take your invoices. We take all of the invoices. We will check them. We will digitize them. We will call them back and say that was too expensive. You're trying to rip us off here. That's not good. Give me back the money. And then they will manage all of these processes, even picking up the cars and all of that for the fleet manager, and they will look at the same system. So the fleet manager sees the results and they can even request them. You can actually say, I need a tire change and actually I have nobody who can drive this car. Can you please pick it up? Yes, it will cost money, but it needs to be done. So can you help me? And these communications currently happen through email or phone or paper or fax maybe. So very, very poor systems to have a high frequency with sometimes small but frequent problems. So that is one of the things that we want to build, and we're actually already starting to, so that we can have a whole new layer in our ecosystem. And we have one more, mobility budget. Big topic, easily misunderstood. Our mobility budget will be, at least in the beginning, very special because we want to boost our own partners, our car sharers, Dear Car Sharing, Nika, Reva, K-Earl, all of these players, and we will help the companies to say, if your employees should use these car sharers, then we can actually distribute a budget. We can say every employee of ours can have 20 euros per month. And since all of the other car sharers are part of our ecosystem and our infrastructure, it's very easy for us to manage that process and get the payments done, and then there's one big invoice at the end of the month, and then everything is sorted out. So that's another layer that we want to bring into the subject, to broaden the offer that companies can make to their employees for mobility. Yeah, but we're still keeping it without the limits that we can control well and how we can grow well. Right, so that was a lot of software. Now comes actually, I think, the most important topic of this evening, at least personally I feel it is. Green mobility, I know it's a term you've heard a lot, and it's about the story, not the term, so forgive me, but I just didn't want to invent something you don't understand. So green mobility is a bit more, and it means two things for us. One, we as fleetster will, as a company, not the driving behavior of ours, because almost nobody has a car in fleetster. So I come by bike every day, most other people come by bike though, so that's really not our problem. I think it's rather the server infrastructure, so we use a lot of energy for the servers, and we will make sure that we compensate and reduce as much as we can, because I think each and everybody right now is in a position to do the best that they can. So for me, that's actually not a big thing. From next year onward, we will clearly look at how much CO2 we will actually start this year and compensate, but we just don't have the time to get it precise. So we will already compensate for this year. I just won't get it nailed down to exactly what it is, so we probably just spent a bit more. Of course, we'll do the same next year and from here forward. So that's not the big message. I think every company should do that. I think our real leverage is to help our customers to do the same. And we already have, so the first product we launched, which is the e-vehicle score. So now you can actually measure if your own driving behavior would be compatible with an electric car. We can get deeper into that later. But we will now build more for the charging infrastructure, for the measurement, for driving behaviors, and so on, to help fleets solve the problems that will occur soon and to already be there now. So to help them guide through the process, and we will make it free of charge until we hit the 1.5 degree target for global warming, which I'm sure you did know, but maybe after what I told you about the 5 degrees now you realize how much that already is. So little disclaimer, you will need a little bit of software and data contracts so that you can use these features, but we will not charge for these features until this place is going the right direction, and we are aware that this might take quite some time and we are prepared for it. So we think we have a leverage, and I think we should use it, and we will invest our time and resources to hopefully contribute to the overarching goal of limiting climate change and getting us back on track. So what should you take away from tonight? We think, looking at our data, the market is back. It hasn't exceeded what we had before, but we're about to go back. So we're looking forward to a very interesting year next year. Secondly, we built 7 new products. So if you visited us in 2019 here, we were quite a different company. Yeah, so what we could offer was very, very different, and also the circumstances, because we had very big partners that demanded our time, and right now we can literally do what we want, and that's what we do, which you could see here. And then the very last one is we will go CO2 neutral, and we will help our customers to do so. And we hope to create a little bit of momentum here and find interesting partners in the future. And those are my concluding words. So thank you very, very much for listening, for coming all the way in severe and tight COVID times and listening to the speech. And I hope that we all have a nice conversation together. Thank you.